So please subscribe and like and comment on this particular video for the further updates. Hello everyone, in this video I am going to explain to you about the design diagrams in proxy oriented data uploading and remote data integrity check. So before we go to the data flow diagram for each module, so let us go ahead and understand the project data flow diagram first. So you know that eventually we are going to store the data in our cloud environment. So I have just represented it like this, and we will be developing 3 projects. So one project by name Cloud Service Component, one more by name Proxy, and one more by name KGC. So all 3 will be an independent components deployed in different hosts. Okay. So let me explain to you the data write operation first. So the end user will be uploading a file, or they will be giving a data to Cloud Service Component. So Cloud Service Component will be the entry point for the end users for providing their data. So through CSP they are going to write the data onto the cloud. Okay, so in step number 1, end user will be providing their data to Cloud Service Component. In step number 2, Cloud Service Component will make use of KGC for performing the encryption on that user data. So KGC will be returning the encrypted user data back to Cloud Service Component. That is in step number 3. So once the Cloud Service Component got the encrypted data from KGC, in step number 4, it's going to calculate the checksum. This checksum will be used for verifying the data integrity. Okay, so the Cloud Service Component will be calculating the checksum of that encrypted data, and that checksum alone will be stored in the database. In step number 5, the encrypted data will be given to Proxy. So you should be aware that Proxy doesn't know how the data has been encrypted. Okay, only the KGC will be knowing which keys were being used for encrypting the data. So Proxy no way can decrypt the data. Okay, so Proxy will be now getting an encrypted data. So now Proxy will be performing another encryption on the encrypted data. Okay, after performing a second level encryption by Proxy, it's going to write the data to the cloud. Okay, so this is how the data write operation will be happening. Okay, so now coming to the remote data integrity check, right? So the data integrity check, this is done because to make sure how we have written the data. Okay, the same way we are reading the data. So nobody in the cloud has tampered the data. So to make sure nobody in the cloud has tampered the data, we are going to use this data integrity check. So how actually this data integrity check will be working, So this Proxy will be, reading that encrypted data from the cloud in step number A. Okay, this is for data integrity check. So it is going to read the data stored in the cloud. The Proxy is going to read the data stored in the cloud, and it's going to compute the checksum. Okay, Proxy is going to compute the checksum, but you need to remember Proxy will be computing the checksum only after decrypting it using the keys generated by Proxy. Okay, Proxy also have encrypted the data in the second level. KGC has encrypted the data in the first level. Okay, so the Proxy will be now decrypting the data, and then it will compute the checksum. And that checksum will be given to the Cloud Service Component. Okay, so the Cloud Service Component got a checksum of the data that is available in the cloud. So now it will read the checksum of the data that was present before the data was sent to the cloud. Okay, in step number C, it will read the checksum of the data before it was written to the cloud. Okay, in step number B, we got the checksum of the data after the data has been written to the cloud. So now it is going to compare these 2 checksums. If these 2 checksums were same, then it proves that nobody in the cloud has tampered the data. If somebody in the cloud has tampered the data, this checksum verification will be failing. Okay, so this is how the remote data integrity check has been implemented. We call it as remote data integrity because the cloud service provider is not downloading the entire data to it. It's just downloading the checksum. Okay, so this is how we call remote data integrity check. Okay, now let me explain to you the module wise flow diagram. So you people know that our project has been divided into 6 modules as shown here. Okay, so let me go to module number 1. So module number 1 is all about the account access layer, where the user will be able to create a new account, log into the account he created, log out from his account, edit the profile, deleting the account, changing the password. All these basic operations can be done in module 1. So let me show you the working of the module 1 first, and then let me explain to you the data flow diagram. Okay, so to run our project, you know that we need to open Eclipse and import all these 3 projects I have shown here: CSC, KGC and Proxy, and Tomcat server has to be installed prior to that. Now I am going to simply right click on Tomcat and click on add and remove. So I'll make sure all the 3 projects has been added to the right hand side. I mean, they should have configured. Okay, if they are not configured, so you need to click on this add all button and make sure they are configured in Tomcat and click on finish. And then I'll simply start the Tomcat server. Okay, so the Tomcat server has been started. So now I'll be opening a Google Chrome browser, and the URL to run our CSC application will be localhost 8080/CSC, just CSC. Okay, so this will load our CSC application. Okay, so you can see whenever I say localhost 8080/CSC, by default index.jsp will be loaded. Okay, so the entry point for running our application will be the index.jsp. Okay, from here if I click on login, it will take me to login.jsp. When I click on register, it will take me to register.jsp. So in register.jsp, it will just ask me to enter the email ID, password, first name, last name, etc, etc. I'll create a new account for ashokkumar24799@gmail.com. Password 1234, first name, last name, gender, mobile, and some address. Okay, this is how I created a new account. Okay, so after creating a new account, I can click on this login button and enter the email ID I created right now and the password. So I can now successfully log in. Okay, so if you clearly see, so I clicked on login button. So currently I'm in login.jsp. So when I enter that invalid ID password, some invalid password, so you can see I will stay back in the same JSP. A new message will be printed, invalid credentials. Okay, but if I enter the valid ID password and click on login button, it will take me to welcome.jsp by printing a message, successfully logged in. Okay, from welcome.jsp I can click on this edit profile, which will take me to update profile.jsp. Okay, and I can click on this change password, which will take me to change password.jsp. If I click on this logout, it will take me to login.jsp saying that successfully logged out. Okay, so and then there is an option of deleting an account. If I click on delete account, once again it will take to login.jsp saying that profile deleted successfully. So I can no longer log in with that ID. Okay, so I need to create a new account now. Okay, I already created a new account for Celestial cluster. I can log in from that guy. Okay, so this is how the module number 1 will be working. So now let us understand with respect to code how I have implemented this. Okay, so remember the entry point for our project is index.jsp. So I am going to open Eclipse and I am going to see expand CSC. You people know that whatever I have written inside Java resources will be the backend code, and whatever I have written inside web content will be the front end code. So here is our index.jsp. So this is the JSP page that is printing that welcome message, something like this. This enter background, all the motivation, all those things have been printed inside this index.jsp. If you want to change anything, you can do it here. Okay, from index.jsp, so there will be a menu. So here you can see. In this menu, if you click on register, it will take us to register.jsp. If you click on login, it will take us to login.jsp. Here it is. So here is our register.jsp and here is our login.jsp. Okay, so if you go to register.jsp, so what will be there in register.jsp? Just a form asking us to enter various fields and clicking on submit button. Okay, here it is in register.jsp. If you scroll down a little bit, here is our form. Okay, asking us to enter the email ID, enter the password, first name, last name, gender, mobile, address, and after entering all those things, I am providing a submit button. Okay, after clicking on the submit button, right, this form will be submitted. So you can see for the form that is submitted will be having an action called account. So action equal to account will be executed. Okay, so the same thing from login.jsp also. Okay, if you click on login.jsp, once again it is asking a simple form with the submit button. Okay, so you can see in the login.jsp also there is a form here asking us to enter the email ID and enter the password and a submit button. Okay, even login.jsp also is executing the same action account. Okay, so register.jsp also is executing the same action account. Login also is executing the same action account. That means both the JSP files will be hitting a same servlet. They will be executing a same servlet. So now the question is, how will the servlet distinguish between the request that came from register.jsp and the request that came from login.jsp? So for distinguishing between these two requests, you can see I have created an hidden variable. Okay, so input type equal to hidden, name equal to request type, value I have set it as login because I am in login.jsp. But in register.jsp you can see input type equal to hidden, name equal to request type, value equal to register. I am setting it as register. Okay, so that's how I can distinguish between two requests. Okay, so now I need to find out which servlet will be executed for this action called account. Okay, I need to open web.inf web.xml. So there you can see for /account, right, I have mapped to a servlet name account. Servlet by name account is associated with com.duic.servlet.userservlet.java. Okay, userservlet.java is the one that will be getting executed now. Okay, so com.duic.servlet, here it is com.duic.servlet, inside that userservlet.java. I'll open userservlet.java. So this method will be getting executed whenever I click on submit button, either from register page or from login page. Okay, see what I'm doing inside this servlet. I'm just reading that hidden variable request type. I'm checking if that hidden variable is equal to register, execute this logic. Else if that hidden variable is equal to login, execute this logic. Okay, now let us understand how the register logic will be working. You can see I'm reading the email entered by the user, address entered by the user, first name, last name, gender. I'm reading each and every field entered by the user and I'm setting it into an user pojo. You know what is a pojo? Okay, so user pojo has been created here. You can see them here, com.duic.pojo. So the user pojo will contain these many things. Okay, so I'm just creating a user pojo for that, and then I'm going to check if any of those fields are empty or null. If any of those fields are empty or null, I'm redirecting the user to the same JSP, register.jsp, by sending a message all the fields mandatory. Okay, you can see this. If in register.jsp, if I simply click register button without entering any of the field, it will redirect me to the same JSP, sending a message all the fields are mandatory. Okay, so that's how the validation has been done in this project. If that validation has been passed, I am simply making use of DAO layer to register that new user. I am passing that user pojo. Okay, so DAO layer, here it is. It's the user DAO, DAO equal to new, user DAO IMPL. So user DAO, you can find it here. It's just an interface which provides these many functions. Register function, get user details function, update profile, delete profile, change password, forgot password function. Okay, but this interface has been implemented by user DAO IMPL, which you can find it here. Okay, so in user DAO IMPL you can see the register function. It is simply executing the insert into user table command. Okay, but it is making use of this MySQL utility for obtaining the connection. Okay, MySQL utility can be found here. Okay, so it is obtaining the connection and giving it back to DAO layer. Okay, so the same way, if the request came from update profile.jsp, it will execute this action. It will simply make a call to update profile within the DAO layer. Okay, if the request came from change password, it will simply make a call to DAO layer's change password method. Okay, and if the request came from delete profile, it will simply make a call to delete profile function of DAO layer. Okay, so and forgot password and log out. Okay, so you can see login, login method. Here is the login logic that will be executed. So for login logic, I will read the email ID entered by the user. I'll read the password entered by the user. Okay, I'll simply make use of get user details method of our DAO layer to check if any user is present with respect to this email ID and password. Okay, if this user is not present, if the user is not null, I mean if that user is present, then he is a valid user, else he is an invalid user. So I'm throwing him back to login.jsp saying invalid credentials. Okay, if he is a valid user, then I'm creating a new session attribute for him and I'm redirecting the user to welcome.jsp saying successfully logged in. Okay, so similarly in case of logout, I'm simply killing that session. In login I'm creating a session, in logout I'm terminating the session. That's it. So that's how the module number 1 has been implemented. Okay, so now coming to the data flow diagram of module 1. Okay, this is how it looks like. You have seen index.jsp is the entry point from which I can navigate to register.jsp or login.jsp. So in both the JSPs, request type hidden variable will be set accordingly. Both of them will be executing the same servlet, user servlet.java, which will process these many requests: register, login, change password, update password, etc. It will make use of user DAO-MPL, which will provide these many methods as you have seen. Okay, and it will internally make use of that user Pojo and MySQL utility for obtaining the connection and performing the data operation with respect to database. Okay, after the user has successfully logged in, the user will be going to welcome.jsp, from where if we click on edit profile, it will take us to update profile.jsp. If we click on change password, it will take us to change password.jsp. Okay, in both the JSPs also the same servlet will be executed. So I'm maintaining a hidden variable like this. Okay, this is how the data flow diagram for module 1 looks like. Okay, module 2 is all about the key generation center KGC application. So here the KGC application will be providing two operations: the encryption operation and then the decryption operation. Okay, so if you recall the thing that I have shown from the project data flow diagram, so here the KGC will be implemented as a different project altogether, you can see. Okay, so this different project called KGC will be providing us two operations. Number one, encryption operation, which will be used during data write operation, and number two, decryption service, which will be used during data read operation. Okay, so this encryption service and decryption service will be provided by KGC, but if people can clearly see, KGC is not accessed by the end user directly. KGC has been accessed by cloud service component. The end user cannot access cloud service, the end user cannot access KGC directly. Therefore, KGC doesn't have any user interface. Okay, but internally it will be accessed by cloud service component. Okay, so remember there are two services provided by KGC: the encryption service and then the decryption service. Okay, so I can mention that encryption and decryption service like this as the data flow diagram. So for the encryption service provided by KGC, it will take the data that has to be encrypted as an input, along with the identifier the data of the data as an input, and it will be giving us the encrypted data as a result. Okay, so similarly the decryption service also will be taking two things as an input: encrypted data and the identifier, and it will be giving us back the plain data as an output. Okay, you can see this both encryption and decryption service both will be making use of RSA algorithm for performing those encryption and decryption algorithm. Okay, so RSA algorithm, you people should be knowing that this is the steps that we need to follow in RSA algorithm. Step number 1, we will select two prime numbers P and Q such that they are not equal, and step number 2, we will calculate the product of them and we will calculate n, and in step number 3 we will calculate this chi of n using this formula. Okay, and in the next step we will find out E, and in the next step we will find out D, making use of these formulas. Okay, so once we got this E, D and N right, the pair E comma N will be called as public key and the pair D comma N will be called as private key. Okay, so that's how the key generation will be taking place. So a small example for this will be explained in this slide, and now example for encryption and decryption can be seen here. Okay, so if we have the plain text M, we can encrypt that plain text using M power E mod n. Okay, for decryption operation we will do it using C power D mod n, where C is the ciphertext. Okay, example I have shown there. Okay, so this will be the working of the RSA algorithm. Okay, so this encryption service will implement that RSA algorithm implicitly, and it will encrypt that plain data and it will give back the encrypted data. The reverse operation will be done by decrypt operation. Okay, so the reason why we need identifier for the data, because we should be able to decrypt it back. Okay, so we need to know, right, for which data which keys are being used. So we need to save that keys used for encryption in the database. So that ID will be used for identifying which key were being used for which data for performing encryption. Okay. So now speaking with respect to the code, right, so you can see here, so a different project altogether called KGC. Okay, this will be implementing those two services. You can see there will be no front end components, so the web content will be empty, there are no JSP pages. Okay, but in Java resources, if you expand SRC, there you can see under servlet, two servlet I have written, encrypt servlet and decrypt servlet. Okay, encrypt servlet is the one which provides encryption operation. Decrypt servlet is the one which provides decryption operation. Okay, so you can see in encrypt servlet, I am reading the two input entered by that CSC, that data and the ID. Okay, and then I'll making use of this PKG private, the pair key generation. Okay, making use of this PKG. So I'm going to store that keys in the database. Okay, PKG will be defined here. This PKG is basically used for storing that, keys in the database. Okay, after storing the keys in the database, I'll make use of this encrypt Java file. Here it is. Making use of this encrypt Java file, I'll perform the encryption operation. Okay, so making use of n comma and private public key. Okay, so and then encrypted data I'm going to print it, give it back to the CSC. The same thing with respect to decrypt servlet.java. So making use of this PKG, I'm going to read, okay, read that n and private key. After reading, I'll make use of this decrypt Java file for performing the decrypt operation. Okay, and then decrypted message I'm going to print it. Okay, so encrypt.java will provide encrypt function, decrypt.java will provide decrypt function, and PKG will provide the functions to write those keys and reading those keys from the database, and RSA.java will provide that basic implementation of that calculating the two prime numbers, finding out the product. All those things will be provided by RSA. Okay, test Java is nothing, you can delete that. Okay, so this is how the KGC application has been implemented. Okay, as I told you earlier, you people cannot test this KGC independently, but CSC will be accessing it internally. Okay, we are not going to provide any user interface for KGC. Okay, but if you want to show to the internals or external how this KGC will be working, there is an hack. Okay, which you people should not do it all the time. So, but you can just manually enter the URL to show how the data will be encrypted. Okay, so you need to enter the URL localhost /80//KGC/ okay, encrypt. Okay, so I'm making a call to encrypt service provided by KGC. So, and then question mark, I'm going to provide data. Data is equal to Ashok, ampersand ID equal to A1, some identifier. So like this. So this URL will invoke the encrypt function of KGC. If you hit enter, okay, so there's a small mistake. 1 minute. Okay, I have now corrected that mistake. So if you say localhost 8080 KGC encrypt question mark data equal to Ashok, ID equal to A1. So you can there see, so that text Ashok has now been encrypted like this. Okay, this is how the encrypted data looks like for the plain data Ashok. So if you want to decrypt it, so you need to enter the URL localhost :8080 KGC / decrypt question mark data equal to something, data equal to this one, whatever you got, right, the encrypted data, this you need to enter here. Okay, data equal to this thing, ampersand ID equal to A1. So whatever ID you have given in entered encryption, the same thing you need to give for decryption also. If you enter Okay, there you can see I got back the plain text. Okay, so this is how the encryption works, and this is how the decryption works. So now you can realize the use of this identifier. Okay, if you don't have this identifier, say for example, if I give a different identifier for decrypting the data, instead of A1 I will just give A4. Okay, you can see then decryption will not work properly. Okay, so use of identifier is to make sure the same keys will be used for both encryption and decryption also. Okay, so that's how the module 2 will be working. Okay, so before we go to module number 3, that is proxy application, I want to show you how module number 4 and module number 5 works, and then I will get back to module number 3. So module number 4 is all about configuring a proxy and KGC application. So here the user will be able to send a request to a new proxy, so that the CSC application will be able to use that proxy for uploading the data to the cloud. Okay, so you know that in the previous the data flow diagram that I have explained earlier, so the CSC application should make use of proxy for uploading the data to the cloud. So we need to, this CSC, the user who have logged into CSC should send a request to proxy. Okay, the admin of that proxy should have to approve that request. Okay, only then the CSC application will be able to use that proxy for uploading the data to the cloud. Okay, so that sending the request and getting the approval, so all those things will be done in module number 4. In addition to that, the KGC application, the URL, the address where the KGC application is deployed, that also can be configured in CSC. Okay, so these two things together we are going to do it in module 4. So now let us go ahead and understand the working of this module 4. So I'll go to a browser and I'll log in as the registered user. And now if I click on a proxy tab here, so you can see there is only one proxy we have developed. So that proxy is available to use. So I'm going to send a request for that proxies. So before that, you can see there are no proxies that are approved yet, and there are no proxies for whom I have sent a request yet. Okay, so now I'm going to click on this send request. So you can see there is one proxy in the section called requested proxies. Okay, so and then I need to enter the code that I received from proxy to verify whether this proxy owner have approved to use it or not. Okay, so I need to log into a proxy now. So the URL to run our proxy application will be localhost:8080 P proxy. Okay, this is the proxy application we have developed. You can click on login. So you can see the end user will not be able to access the proxy application. Only the owner of the proxy will be able to access the proxy application. The end users here will not be given a direct access to proxy. Okay, therefore the admin of the proxy will have to log in. So we have hard coded the admin password as admin itself. Okay, you can see after logging in as proxy admin, okay, there is a section called authorize. So if you click on that section authorize, so here it will show that one user by name celestialcluster@gmail.com wants to use this proxy for uploading the data to the cloud. So the proxy admin can now either decide either to approve or reject this user. Okay, so now I am going to approve this user. Okay, after approving, email ID will be sent to that registered user, I mean celestialcluster@gmail.com, where the code will be sent in an email. Okay, that code I will have to enter it here, so that way I can configure the proxy successfully. Okay, so let me log in as celestialcluster@gmail.com. So you can see I got a new mail, proxy app. I got a new mail from proxy app. It says code for proxy verification. Okay, this is the code for proxy verification. I'll just copy this code and I'm going to enter it inside my CSC. Right click, paste. Okay, there you can see under associated proxy, there we got one proxy got successfully approved. Okay, so this is how I'm going to configure the proxy. And then
if in the next tab there is configure the host, right? If I click on that, so here it will show there is only one proxy available, so obviously that will be selected by default. Here I need to enter the URL where KGC has been deployed. Okay, so the URL where we deployed KGC is http://localhost 8080 KGC. This is the URL where we have our KGC now. So this URL I will have to enter and click on configure button. Okay, so it has now successfully configured. Okay, so this way I can configure the proxy, and I can configure KGC. Okay, so this is about module number 4. So now if you speak about the code, right? Okay, so you can see whenever I click on proxy, okay, an URL called proxy and type equal to get details will be executed. Okay, so that means a JSP is not getting executed directly. A servlet is being executed by this address proxy, and the type is equal to get details. So how to find out which servlet is getting executed? You need to open web.xml here, and you need to search where is that /proxy. You can see /proxy has been mapped to proxy, which has been associated with com.duic.servlet.proxyservlet.java. So here you can find that com.duic.servlet.proxyservlet.java. Okay, so here the type, I am reading the type. So you can see in the URL type equal to get details is getting executed now. So type equal to get details. So this part of the code will be executed whenever I click on this proxy. Okay, what is this part is doing? So this is finding out all the requested proxies, all the available proxies, and all the associated proxies. Okay, all the three it is finding out, and all the three it has been sending out to proxy.jsp. Okay, so that's how for finding out all these three things, it is just making use of the DAO layer. And here in this case it is making use of proxy DAO.java. Similarly, proxy DAO will be found here, okay, which will just provide all those function names. Okay, the implementation of that proxy DAO can be found in proxy DAO IMPL, which can be found here, proxy DAO IMPL. Okay, so now after this particular page, right, if I click on that available proxy, if I click on that send request, okay, so you can see after finding all this requested proxy, all the available proxy, all the user proxies, it is forwarding the request to proxy.jsp. Okay, so the UI which you are seeing here will be rendered from the JSP file by name proxy.jsp. Okay, here it will show, okay, so the list of all requested proxies, list of all available proxies, and then here it is list of all available proxies. Okay, you can see an anchor tag href. Okay, send request. If you click on the send request button, it will execute the same servlet, proxy servlet, but the type it is sending it as send request. Okay, so proxy servlet only will be getting executed, the type equal to send request. This part of the code will be executed. Okay, so there you can see this particular part of the code is reading the proxy address. Okay, for that particular proxy it is sending a request. Okay, making use of this URL connection. Okay, this is how our CSC application will be communicating with the proxy application. Okay, so if you go back and look at the data flow diagram here, okay, the CSC application will be communicating with the proxy application by invoking the URL directly within the code. Okay, so this is how it is invoking it. Okay, so this is about the send request, and after sending the request I will be entering the proxy code here, and I will click on verify proxy, right? In proxy.jsp, there you people can see in the requested proxies. Okay, whenever I click on that verify button, okay, here it is. Whenever I click on that verify button, the same servlet has been executed, but the hidden variable has been set to verify. Okay, so in proxy servlet this part of the code will be executed. Okay, it will read the code entered by the user, it will read the proxy address, and it will verify. If the code is equal, it will say successfully done, else it will not configure it. Okay, So this is how the proxy module has been implemented. And then configure the host. Okay, if you click on configure the host, you can see once again a servlet called configure host action has been executed. So how to find out which servlet is getting executed? Go to web.xml. So find out where is configure host. You can see configure host has been mapped to get approved proxies. Get approved proxies has been associated with configure host servlet.java. Okay, configure host servlet.java, you can find it here. Okay, if you open that, you can see the hidden variable I am sending it as type equal to get approved proxies. Here it is, type equal to get approved proxies. Okay, this part of the code will be executed. It will find out all the proxies that are been approved for the end user, and it will show that in the drop down here. Okay, and after entering the KGC URL manually and after clicking on that configure button, if you can see, this part of the code will be executed, type equal to set. Okay, and it will set it in the session accordingly. Okay, so that request will be provided by configure host.jsp, which is present here. Okay, so these are the JSP files and the servlet files involved in module number 4. Okay, if you look at the data flow diagram for module number 4, here it looks like, okay, there are two JSP files that are involved, proxy.jsp and configure host.jsp, and two servlets that are involved, proxy servlet.java and configure host servlet.java, and two utility files, one DAO layer, proxy DAO MPL, and one API util for sending the request to proxy. Okay, and this arrow mark indicates that it is a web service called to a different project called proxy. Okay, so that's how the module 4 will be working. So module 5 is all about the data operations. So here the user can perform various data operations like writing the data to the cloud, reading the data, deleting the data, and updating the data. So first let me show you the working of this module, and then let me explain to you the design diagram. So if I go to the configure host, so I just confirmed that both proxy and KGC has been configured successfully. Now I'm going to click on data operations. Okay, remember, only if you perform the configure host properly, you can go ahead for data operations, or else it will give you an error. Okay, while writing the data to the cloud, now here it will ask you to enter the title. I'll just say this data is about this student. Okay, so the description I'll say, just say for example HSM CSC. So key, I'll just give it as USN. Value, I'll just give it as 1GA13CS009 is the USN. And then name, I'll just call him as Akshay. And then aggregate, so I'll just say 78.85, something like that. So this particular data I'm trying to write it on the cloud. I'll click on this write button. So now the data write operation has been successfully done. You can see the message, data write operation successful. Okay, so you have to go to that the project flow diagram and understand how the data write operations will be done. Okay, so here the user have just provided that USN, name and aggregate to the CSC application. It would have internally communicated with KGC to perform the first level encryption, and then it would have communicated with proxy, and proxy would have done the second level encryption and written the data to the cloud. Before the CSC have given the data to proxy, it would have computed the checksum and it would have written it in its own local database. Okay, so these are the internal working of the cloud service provider. So now let us see with respect to the code where exactly it has been done. Okay, so if you now click on data operations again, you can see the JSP page that is been loaded is data operations.jsp. So if you expand CSC, expand web content, here it is data operations.jsp. This is the page you are seeing here. Okay, in this page there is a simple form tag which is asking us to enter this information. So I will search for a form tag here. Okay, so you can see here is our form tag asking us to enter the title, description and then the key value pairs. Okay, so on clicking of the submit button within this form, right, it is executing the action called data. Okay, and with the hidden variable write data. Okay, so the action called data, how to find out the servlet that is getting executed, go to web.xml, slash data has been mapped to data has been mapped to com.doic servlet dot data servlet dot java. Okay, so com.doic dot servlet dot data servlet, it can be found here, com.doic dot servlet dot data servlet. So if you open that, so remember in the JSP page we found out that the hidden variable value is write data. Okay, inside data servlet here is the write data. So this part of the code will be executed. So you should remember the flow. So the data will be given to CSC. CSC will perform the encryption using KGC, and then it will calculate the checksum. It will calculate the checksum and then store it in the database, and then it will pass it on to proxy. Okay, this behavior will be done here. Okay, you can see I'm reading the title entered by the user, I'm reading the description of the data entered by the user, I'm reading the set of keys and set of values entered by the user. I'm checking if any of them is empty or not. If any of them are empty, I'm saying please enter all the fields, message. Okay, so then if everything got successful, then you can see the title entered by the user. Okay, I'm encrypting it, making use of KGC. Okay, by calling it, making use of API util.java. Okay, so what will API util.java will do? API util.java will just make a call to, it will make a post call to that KGC application. Okay, so you're making use of that KGC application, and I'm encrypting the title, and then making use of that same KGC application, I'm encrypting that description. Okay, so this is the title that has been encrypted, and this is the title, the description that has been encrypted. Okay, so and then this title which has been encrypted and description which has been encrypted, I'm sending it to the proxy, once again making use of that API util. Okay, so remember API util.java is the one which will internally make a call to other projects like proxy and KGC, like that. Okay, so after doing all these things, right, so you can see I'm finding the checksum of the title, and I'm finding the description of that I'm finding the checksum of the description. Once again, I'm finding the checksum of the title, and I'm finding the checksum of the description, and I'm writing it inside the database. Okay, some DAO database. Okay, so how to find out the checksum of that title and description? It has been implemented in data integrity.compute checksum. If you open that, here it is. Okay, so this is the algorithm to find out the checksum of the input data. It will make use of SHA-1. Okay, so after calculating the checksum of title and after calculating the checksum of description, it will write that into the some DAO layer. Okay, so till now I have successfully encrypted the title, successfully encrypted the description, and I have sent it to proxy, and then I have successfully calculated the checksum of title and description, and I have written it to the database. Okay, now comes the for loop, because there are multiple key value pairs. No, so for each key value pair I'm running a for loop. What I'm doing for each key value pair, and I'm encrypting that key and I'm encrypting that value, making use of KGC. You can see I'm encrypting it, making use of KGC, the key and value in each loop, and then I'm sending that to the proxy. The key and value I'm sending it to the proxy, and at last making use of the data integrity.compute sum, I'm finding the checksum of the key and I'm finding the checksum of the value, and I'm writing it into the sum DAO layer. Okay, so this is how the data write operation has been done. Okay, and then when I click on read data, I clicked on read data. So you can see data servlet got executed once again. The type now becomes read data. Okay, so there you can see here is our read data. Okay, so now it will do a reverse operation. Okay, so it will make use of proxy, okay, to read the data. Okay, after reading the data, making use of proxy. Okay, so then what it's going to do, it's going to find out the description and the title. Okay, so because we are not showing the key value pair here, you can see we are only seeing the title and we are only seeing the description. Only two things will be read. Okay, So the proxy is going to send title and description making use of this delimiter. So I am once again making use of the delimiter to find out the title and to find out the description separately. Okay, so you can see after reading the title and after reading the description, right, I am making use of KGC to decrypt the title, and I am once again making use of that KGC to decrypt that description. Okay, so title encryption and description encryption are what that I have read from proxy, and after decrypting it making use of KGC, I got the plain title and plain description. Okay, so that's how the read operation will be working. So this is the encrypted data from proxy. Okay, if you click on decrypt button, so here is the decrypted data of that particular data. Okay, but now if you click on this view data, if you click on this view data, you can see one more request will be sent. I just clicked on view data, so it's going to send one more request for the same servlet, data servlet.java, but look at the type now. Type now became read key value. Okay, so this will be executed. Type becomes read key value. This logic will be executed. Okay, so what I am doing for each key value pair, I am reading the encrypted key and encrypted value. I am making use of KGC for decrypting that key. I am once again making use of that KGC for decrypting the value, and I am displaying it back. Okay, so that's what I am doing here. Okay, so you can see for each key value pair I am decrypting it like this. Okay, so if I after making any changes like Akshay space Akshay Kumar, so something like that, I'll click on this update data. So in this case you can see this, there's an option called update data. This logic will be executed. Okay, and at last, so there is an option where I can click on delete button. Okay, so if I click on this delete data, right, so you can see the last one, delete data, will be executed, which will simply make use of that proxy to delete that particular data. Okay, so this is how the data operation has been implemented. So if you want to look at the data flow diagram for this module number 5, so this is how it looks like. For module number 5, data operation will look like this. So it will make use of these many JSP pages, data operations.jsp for writing the new data, data operations read.jsp for reading that decrypted title and in description data, and data operations key value.jsp to reading the key and value for that title data. Okay, and all of this will be executing data servlet.java, which will internally make use of that POJO along with the data sum DAO layer and API util for performing KGC and proxy communication. So this is how our module 5 will be implemented.